I wanted to share today something about what are the three principles and why are we even looking in this direction? I mean, why are we spending time looking at this, investigating for ourselves? And also, does it affect our lives? How can we go into the world and create a ripple effect of knowing about this understanding? So those are sort of the 3 points I want to make through this time. I'm going to be speaking for a little bit, and then at some point I'm going to ask if you have any questions or insights or anything. But before I start, I'd love for you to, in your chat, could you just write how long you've known about the principles? Could you write something just like, is it like a month or 10 years, or can you put in the... So one writes 3 years, 6 years, 5 years, 18 years. Thanks, Linda. 8 months. Oh, lovely. 7 years. Oh, good. 18 months, 2 months. 4 years. Wonderful. Okay. All right. So I came across the principles in 2012. And at that time, I'd been somebody who'd been searching since I was a teenager, for something that I knew was here, but I couldn't find it. It was like there was a longing for something that I couldn't really explain. After I found the principles, I've been calling it home, longing to be home. I think it's a longing that we all have. We all long to find this space of peace, of love, of connection. But like probably most of you, nobody told me where to look. In fact, everybody told me to look in all the places that you might have been looking as well, which was in relationships, in adventures, in my career, in lots of different places, but nobody said, why don't you look within? So I've gone down the route of self-help and self-help books and seminars and astrology and you name it. I've been there, I've researched it, because I really wanted to find this space that I now call home. And the beautiful thing is that I know that it's a space that was always here inside of me, and it's in every single human being that I meet. So that's been one of my journeys to get to this place that I feel that I belong in right now. So the three principles is what create the reality we live in. It's life as we know it. And the reason why I wanted to call this talk the three principles of creation is that I see how creation is all that ever happens. Right? We are so accustomed to look at what is created that we sometimes don't look at what actually does the creation. So the way I see this is that creation is always going on. What can we say about the creation? What is the nature of creation? What is the nature of that which creates everything? We can say about creation that it seems to have an intelligence. It creates all systems. It creates nature. It creates everything intelligently. I think everyone intuits that there is something larger than what we can see. Almost everyone I come across have a sense that we're connected to something that we can't explain. The way our body works, the way nature works. So creation, one way of speaking about creation is that it has an intelligence. It knows how to create. It knows how to create systems that are working, that are thriving, organisms that are alive. It's both an aliveness and it's an intelligent aliveness. Another thing we can say about creation is that it's aware. It seems to be conscious. Physicists tell us that the universe is conscious. Every living thing is conscious. there's something that's aware of what's going on around it. There's something that reacts to temperature or to touch, even to, some people have made research that plants react to how we speak to them if we have house plants at home. So everything is aware, everything is alive, and everything is aware. So that's another thing we can say about creation. Something else we can say about creation is that it's obviously creative. Look at all the forms that has been created. So much variety. Just look at us right here, right now. We look different. We have different hair color and eye color and skin color, and look outside. There's all these different things in nature. All that has been created, from the most beautiful paintings and all the art we know, all the books that are there, and every single product that's ever been created. So creation itself, that which creates life as we know it, has these qualities of being alive, aware, and creative. We tend to overlook that something creates the reality that we live in. I love this quote by Sid that I'm just going to read, which says, "The life force beyond all things has no form, yet it gives form to all things." Right? There's something that has no form, but gives form to all things. And what if that all that ever happened to us is that we tend to overlook that which creates and spend all our time looking at what has been created, which is how we grew up. We're told to get a career, you have to get a husband or a wife, and you must have children, and there's all these things that you have to do. Look at how much money this person makes, or look at the career that person has, or look at how beautiful or clever he or she is. And we are focused so entirely on what has been created, and it looks so multifaceted. There's so many complexities in it. So on the surface level, if that's where we point, if that's where we look constantly, then we only see what's above the sea level. On the surface level, there's all these things that are different. When I look from that level, from the surface level, I see different colors. I see different genders. I see different ages. I see you being better than me. There is a diversity and a duality that is created when I look to that which has been created. And it kind of blinds me to what does the creation. So how it works is that something creates everything. It has no form. And because it has no form, we don't speak about it so much. It's spiritual. This is a spiritual understanding. And every word I say about this no form place is not really it, because we are not able to speak about, even the words that I use are form. But we can intuit it. And I think everybody does. I started by saying that we all long to be home. We all long to find this space of just peace, a sense of connection, a sense of love. And why would I use the word love? What is that? What is that quality that Sydney Banks spoke about? Because he called the three principles the divine mind. He said that is love. Divine consciousness is love. Divine thought is love. Well, because love is, when the love in its purest form is giving unconditionally. We've been given life. And that which has given us life hasn't judged that life. It doesn't say, oh, you can, this is better than that, or no, I only want people who are a certain, good people. We don't want any murderers or people who steal. It's life is just given, and then we all get to do with that life what we will, because we have free will. So there's something that has no form that gives life to everything of form. So one way of saying it is that there is the created and that which creates. That which creates is the three principles. I just made up a fourth one, there isn't. But really it is one principle. Creation is one. So there's three ways of speaking about it, which is the intelligence, the consciousness, and the creative force of thinking, of thought. So what happens to us? Well, what happens is that we focus entirely on what has been created. Now, out there is all these different kinds of therapies and religions and political parties and cultures, and we can get so involved in that we fail to see what does the creating. That's where we get into discussions. Oh, this therapy is better than that therapy. I'm a psychotherapist by that was my education, and I think there's maybe at least 450 different kinds of therapy. Now, metacognitive therapy is a whole big thing in Denmark, where I live. And people are saying, well, how is it different than the three principles, for instance? It's very easy to answer that. Metacognitive therapy has been created. The three principles talks about that which creates. It's spiritual. It's not even in the same form at all. So what is it that makes a difference? When we look to that which creates, we start to realize that, first of all, because it has no form, it can't be broken. Who I am in essence is formless. Who you are in essence is formless, which means that you can't be broken. Nothing is wrong. How can something that doesn't have a form be broken? It's like the space of this room that I'm in right now. It doesn't have to defend itself, even if a bomb goes off in this room, because the space in here would still be here, even if a bomb went off. So it doesn't have to defend itself. It doesn't have to create strategies. It doesn't need a coping mechanism to cope with a bomb going off. But because we are so focused on the world of form, we grow up, we have things that happen in our life. Sometimes terrible and tragic things happen in our life, and we start to develop coping strategies. I have to defend myself. I must buy a gun because I can be harmed and hurt. I must get all these different kinds of ways of protecting myself against bad relationships or bad people. And so our focus becomes on what I can do to protect myself. And it's a lot of work. It takes up a lot of my mental bandwidth when I'm constantly thinking about how to protect myself from this evil world. Now, when I start to realize that my true nature is formless, when I realize that I can't be broken, and I don't need to protect myself anymore. It doesn't mean that I'm stupid. It doesn't mean that I don't sense if I'm walking into a dangerous situation, if I'm in a country or a city which has a high rate of crime. But it means that there's something that doesn't scare me anymore. It means that there's something inside that I know is always whole. So feeling ashamed about something that happened in the past or fearing something that is in the future, when I see that my being, this pure presence, is always here now, when I rest in that and thinking falls away about the past and the future, I'm just here now with you. It's very powerful. It's powerful for us when we're able to be with people in this way. It's powerful when we start seeing that who we are is always already okay, no matter what has happened. It also means that we become resilient in the face of all the things that do happen in our lives. Last night, as Dickon had his beautiful talk about compassion, I had a phone call from my dad. Now I wasn't going to pick up the phone, but I could see it was my dad, and he usually doesn't call. It was later in the evening here, and he called to say that his sister died in England. And of course I switched off the wonderful webinar with Dickon and talked to my dad, and I was just overwhelmed by compassion. And I called up my cousins to say how sorry I am that they lost their mom. At the same time as this is going on and this compassion in me just wells up, there's also a knowing that my aunt, her body might not be here anymore, but there's something that is. There's something that doesn't disappear. And that knowing of who my true nature is, everyone's true nature is, and knowing that it can't go away, makes it easier to cope with these different things that happen in life, like death, like sickness, like people getting fired, like the horrible things going on in India right now with COVID. So we don't become numb. In fact, we become very feeling towards everything that's going on. And we also see the resilience in other people. We see how we rise to the occasion when we don't have things on our mind. So the reason why we look in this direction is because it helps us to deal with things in a much more harmonious way. When I'm not covering myself or using up all my bandwidth thinking about how to deal with life, then I'm able to respond to life from this space of intelligence. Not my intelligence, not little Natasha's intelligence, but the intelligence behind all of life. The same intelligence that has created everything is available to me in each moment. It's much easier to hear when I'm not using up all my mental bandwidth trying to cope with all the things that are in life. So when we look in this direction, we're much more able to respond from this space of love and compassion rather than being reactive. I used to feel like life was hitting me hard in lots of different ways, through jobs or relationships or things that are just so unfair. And because it felt like I was on top of the ocean and all the waves were just crashing into who I thought I was. And then life is really difficult and it's complex. And then I needed therapy and I needed help. And there was all these mechanisms that I had in place to try and cope with life. All that fell away when I had a realization of my true being. Not only did my life become much easier, not because the same things don't happen to me, they do. There's still things that are unfair in my life. There's still death, there's still sickness, there's still all these very practical things that I need to deal with. But the way I deal with is from a completely different space. Things occur to me to say, things occur to me to do, and they come from somewhere else than where they used to. It used to be strategies that I needed to think about. Now I feel like I'm moved towards something that helps deal with the practical situations that need to be dealt with. So I don't feel more numb. I feel like I'm much more alive than I've ever been. Every single relationship that I'm in has changed, with my family, with my husband, with friends. There's a beauty in aligning with that natural force of the intelligence behind life. It knows how to deal with things. I don't know if you can get a sense of that, what it feels like, what it means to not have it on my shoulders. To know that if I step out of the way, something will create the changes, something will deal with the practical things in my life that needs to be dealt with. It's a completely different way of being in life. And for all of you, you've from some of you 18 years, and that some of you have known about this, and some just a couple of months. But something has touched you. Something has sparked a curiosity in you. And I believe it's because we all know, intuit, that we are something more than what we can see. We intuit that this physical body that can come and that can go is not all that I am. We intuit that my thoughts come and go, and they're not who I am. We can sense that our feelings come and go, so how can they be who I am? There's something that starts happening in our realization when we come to this understanding that Sydney Banks so beautifully pointed towards, which is who we really are. Now, sometimes I like to think that Sydney Banks spoke about the three principles of mind, conscious, and thought, of being like the three threads that create all of our experiences. Isn't that interesting? Interesting how we have a tendency to look towards the experience. And when I look there, it really looks as if my experience is created by life, by my husband, by my boss, by siblings, by COVID virus, by all these things. And the more I look at what I think is creating my experience, the more confused I get, the more helpless I get. And then when I feel more helpless, I'm going to need more coping strategies and more therapy. I think I've probably had at least 500 hours of therapy in my life. The beautiful thing that happens to pretty much everyone that stays in this conversation and looks in this direction is that they start to see that who they really are is okay, has always been okay. And then all the strategies, we don't need them anymore. It's such a relief not to need the strategies, the therapy, the hours of meditation each day, all the things that I used to do. It's such a relief just to live life, just to be here, to do the best I can, to help people in all the different ways that I help people. It's not necessary to be a coach or to teach three principles. To say a kind word in a supermarket, to lend a helping hand to anyone. There's so many ways in which we can be of service to the world. So how can we take what we know about three principles and go into the world? It's just by living. It's by seeing to ourselves, seeing what is true about ourselves and everyone else, and going into life with that. So we start by looking at what is it that I'm not. We learn that, oh, I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my feelings, I'm not my sensations, I'm not my perceptions, I'm something else. Sydney Banks said you have to go beyond your five senses. You have to go beyond your conceptual mind. Gosh, that's difficult when the conceptual mind is where I've been living most of my life. I was 41 or 42 when I came across the principles. And until then, I'd been living all the time in my conceptual mind. I intuited that there was something else, but I didn't quite know where it was. It was just a sense there's something more here. Now, all of us intuit that there's something else, and we fall into that space naturally from time to time. Often just being in nature for many people. That moment when you see something that's beautiful. Notice when you see something of beauty, right? You like at the moment that spring has just come to Denmark. We're a bit later than many other countries because we're so far north. But the way that things are blossoming right now, the way the light hits a bush of white flowers or yellow flowers, and then the light comes through just right. And it takes my breath away. And you know, when we say it blows me away, what do we mean about that? What do we mean when we say that? Well, the Natasha, my conceptual mind for a moment is gone. And there's this split second where I'm just completely in awe of the beauty in front of me. I fall into that space naturally. Beauty has a tendency to do that. Or looking into the eyes of a baby. What is that? There's no judgment in a baby's eyes. The baby doesn't go, oh, your hair doesn't look very good today. Shouldn't you put some makeup on before coming in? Right? The baby doesn't judge us. The baby just looks with big, curious eyes. So we love looking into baby's eyes or a dog's eyes because there's no judgment there. So love is this space of no judgment. It's this space of giving without an expectation of getting something back. So the love that I'm speaking about is not the personal love where it's, well, I'll give you this and then you can give me that. So beauty is one of the places that many people seem to fall into this space that's always here, but sometimes beauty is the way that we fall into it naturally, just like that moment of wow, that's so beautiful. Another place that it happens is very often when we touch truth. And what's truth? Well, Sid spoke about truth as being that which is before that which has been created. There's something that's true. Truth lies before creation. When we touch truth, when you came across the principles, there's something in it. You go, there's something here. I can't put my finger on it. I can't even express it. But there's something, it resonates inside and it feels like it's true. Have you felt that? Do you know what I'm talking about? There's a sense of truth. So both beauty and truth are sometimes things that, well, they're not actually things, they're no things that touches us in a way that allows us to get in touch with this essence that we are. And love would be the third thing I would say. Love is also something that has no form. Notice if you think about someone that you love right now, how do you know it? How do you know you love someone? You just do. There's a knowing. There's something that knows, and it doesn't have a structure. I love my husband. I don't have a list why I love him. I just do. And I knew when I felt the sense of love for him, when that suddenly occurred to me, oh, I love this man. I want to be with him. I want to spend my life with this man. I couldn't have given you any list. There was just a knowing that this is what felt true. So truth, beauty, and love are three other ways of talking about the three principles. Truth, sometimes being we touch truth, sometimes through things we read, a webinar that we see, seeing videos with Sydney Banks, reading his books or other books. You touch truth and you start seeing something new. When you see beauty, you fall into the space of pure awareness where time stands still and you have this sense of just being. I just am. Pure awareness. And love. Just being pure love for no reason is also what we could call mind. The principle of mind is also the principle of love and wisdom. It gives unconditionally. There's no judgment. There's no reason. It's just love. So these are also three pathways, or three ways of speaking about the three principles. Other ways of saying mind, conscious, and thought. So we've looked at what is it that I'm not? I'm not anything that can come and go. Anything that can come and go can never be who I am. We've looked at or talked about, well, what am I then? I am that which doesn't come and go. I am the awareness behind everything that comes and goes. Everything that has come and gone in your life, something has been aware of it. There's a knowing of all of your experiencing. And the knowing of all of your experiences is untouched by your experiences. Even the ones that have been really difficult. The knowing of it is formless, so it can't be touched by it. So there's what am I not? Then there is what am I then? Oh, I'm this knowing. I'm this pure consciousness. I am this mind, consciousness, and thought that creates everything. That's who I am in essence. It's who I've always been. It's who I will always be. And it's also the truth for everyone else. And then the last thing that we can look towards, and which I want to end my talk with before I go to and open up to questions, is that then how can I go into the world with this knowing? What changes when I go into the world knowing that I'm not my experiences? I'm not my past. I'm not my story. Imagine for just one moment that your story was gone. That you were like a newborn, open, curious, wide open to life in this moment. If you could take your whole story, everything that you've ever done, everything that you think about yourself, everything you think about the future and the past, and you could leave it behind right now. can you get a sense that something would still be here? And that which is here is wide open? Well, how do I go into life knowing this? What does life look like? To me, it looks like a love towards everyone. It looks like seeing that everyone is whole, no matter what their stories are, no matter what they think about themselves. To me, life feels a lot easier because I know that I don't have to solve every single issue in my life or in anyone else's life. When I see all my clients, it's not up to me to solve their problems. All I have to do is to help them realize who they are in essence. And then I know that they have everything they need to live a beautiful life. So the way life looks going into the world with this knowing of who I am and who everyone is that it becomes more loving, it becomes more curious, it becomes much more like a child again. It becomes much more light-hearted because my thinking doesn't take me down like it used to. I don't have to spend hours in therapy looking at what's wrong with me. Nothing can be wrong because who I am is this essence. Who I am is formless. So I wanted to share how I see what the 3 principles are. I wanted to share with you why we look in this direction. And I wanted to share with you how we can go into life with this understanding and the impact that it has on ourselves and on other beings when we see them and ourselves as being whole, beautiful, loving beings that are all the same, beyond whatever we see on the surface level. Now, I'd love to hear from all of you. I'd love to hear any questions or any insights you might have had, or just anything. So please raise your digital hand, and Mark will unmute you, or you can unmute yourselves. But please, you can unmute yourself. Nico, I saw you unmuting yourself. No, just trial. But could you raise your digital hand maybe, so if anyone wants to say something?
I'd like to say thank you very much. I really enjoyed that. Natasha, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. John raised his hand.
Hi, Natasha.
Hi.
Thanks very much. I'm glad I was able to rush back from my vaccine appointment to catch that. I thought I wasn't going to make it in time, but it's always great to hear you. I suppose I have a question, and it's a question from my own life and my relationship that I have with my son, who is in pain with addiction and in pain with the stuff that goes in his head. And most of the time I can see the love that's in him. Most of the time I can see that he's not broken. And I love listening to yourself, and I love listening to Bill Pettit. And it's been a big help to me in the last 3 years in dealing with it. But the pain that he is in really hurts me.
Mm.
And there's times, even though I have the understanding that I feel like going into counselling to help me with the pain that I see he's in. Can you speak to that for me, please?
Of course. It can really be helpful to see that it's so natural for us when we don't know what creates our experience. When we think it's coming from the outside, it creates a tension. Nobody likes to not feel good, right? It's human nature. We don't like it. So as soon as we don't feel good, we have a tendency to try and feel good again. Now, we can do that in many different ways. Some people, unfortunately, do it by taking drugs, because in that moment, I feel a little bit better. or drinking, or even cutting oneself. In that moment, the physical pain is less painful than the emotional pain that people are feeling. Or shopping, or eating, or fighting, arguing, or fighting physically, or sports. There's so many ways in which we try and relieve the suffering that we're in that moment, because we think that it's coming from the outside. So first of all, one of the ways that you, John, and I know from my own life that I can help other people is seeing the innocence in reaching for something that alleviates, at least seem to alleviate the pain momentarily. Now, in terms of you, you're doing the same thing. You are seeing that the suffering that is occurring in you, which is very natural as a dad, is coming from your son. And of course, it's coming from the power of thought. It's the most natural thing in the world, especially with the people that we love, that it can be more difficult to see that it's coming from something other than thought. So seeing the innocence in your son trying to relieve his pain, but also seeing the innocence in you, how you're also going to the world outside and feeling that pain, to see the true nature of yourself, to see the true nature of him, to see that the suffering that you're in and that he's in is coming from looking in the wrong direction. And to know that you can see through that to his innermost being. It's the best thing we can do is to love them. My mom was addicted to sleeping pills for 4 years. And I didn't know it until at the end, but because she was hiding it. But when I could see that she was suffering, I could see that something was going on, but she wasn't telling the truth. It was extremely painful to see that. And I tried so many different strategies to try and help her. And in the end, I just had this inner knowing, which was, it just came to me as a knowing, just love her. Just love her. And so I went from trying to fix her, trying to change her, trying to get her better, because I needed her to be better because I was suffering, to loving her, to allowing her to be just as she was. And what happened when that shift came inside of me was that she didn't feel pressure to change, because it's like she was in enough pain herself, and now I was kind of trying to push her, all good intentions, all from love, but I was also trying to push her to change her ways. So when I stopped the pushing and was more loving and allowing, being who she was, that's when she came, told the truth about what was going on. And then she said yes to get committed to hospital, and she got rid of the addiction and got the help that she needed. So if pressure is what creates this tension, and then tension creates this, I don't want to feel this way, help me not to feel this way. And then we can't stand it, so then we look outside to something that makes us feel better. If we can't allow ourselves to feel bad, then we're going to put more pressure on. So allowing yourself, John, to it's excruciatingly painful to see a family member, your own son, being in pain, but allowing yourself to feel that pain and to not put that pressure. I don't know if you're doing that, but it would be very natural if you were, like allowing him to be who he is and just loving him in whatever way that looks right for you is probably the best you can do. Does that make sense, John?
It makes sense, and it is a journey, and since I've come across the principles. I mean, he's at this behaviour probably since he was 16. He's now 26, and I would say I started the principles in late 2017. And after a few weeks of it, he phoned his sister in Australia one night in the middle of his drinking and said, "Have you seen the change in Daddy? He really gets me now." And that's 4 years ago. And the pain is still there. So therefore, I think I see exactly what you're saying a lot of the time, and definitely not all of the time, and maybe not enough of the time. And he feels the pressure that I feel, or he feels the pressure that he thinks I'm putting on him in order to change. So I have become more accepting of it, but I'm maybe impatient for change. And
so that's so natural. We are with the people we love. We want them to change because we can see the potential of them being back to happiness again. We want that for them. So that's very natural, John, to want that. And I encourage you to go within the love that you have and see what comes out of that, even though it's difficult when it's someone you love.
Okay. Thank you, Natasha.
Nice seeing you again. I remember you from the tent a couple of years ago.
You performed well even under the pressure you had then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Justine.
Hi, hello Natasha.
Hi.
I don't really have a question. I just want to share how much I was blown away by that idea of us having a story, and that if we can just let the story fall away from us, that immense sort of sense of potential, and the word that was just coming in my mind was awe, AWE, awe. And I'm a psychiatrist and I've trained as a psychotherapist, so a lot of the way that I've been trained is around, dealing in people's stories, and that just really spoke to me, to the point that it's more of a feeling than words in my head that I can put into words. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, that's perfect. The feeling. It's a really beautiful question to ask ourselves. Who are you without your story? Who are we without our stories? And yes, Justine, like you, I'm trained as a psychotherapist to listen to people's stories and go into it. Well, what happened and how did that make you feel? And then what happened and how did you deal with that? And oh, your mom did that. Well, then no wonder, and all of that. It's so freeing working with people now, just seeing health. I listen to their stories with great empathy. I just don't go into them. I speak to them about their mental health. I speak to that which is already healthy inside of them. And they start to glimpse that. And then their health start just breaking them open and realizing that they are not their story. Letting go of the burden of the abuse that they've been dealing with, or the traumas that they've had, or the shame that they feel, or the judgment towards themselves or others. When that falls away, you just see this beautiful being. It's really astonishing. I was teaching a course last week, a 3-day course, and this woman came who's a lawyer, and her whole life was about having these ways of being and putting everything into boxes, and there was this seriousness to her, and it took a little bit, but on the 3rd day she melted completely, and all her systems fell away, and the light that came through her eyes, the laughter, she belly laughed so hard. I was like, have you ever laughed that much in your life? I didn't ask her, but it looked as if there was just this laughter and joy and light. How can any job in the world be better than that? Seeing people wake up to their true nature. Seeing light, love, laughter come through them in that way. It is the most beautiful job in the world. I love what I do through coachings or through sharing in webinars and seminars, seeing that light breakthrough. I never asked her once, what happened to you? Why are you the way you are? Where does the seriousness coming from? Because I know the answer. It's coming from thought. I know what creates experience. And I can either look at that experience and spend years looking at that experience, or I can look at that which experiences, the consciousness behind it, the pure awareness. It's a completely different way of being with people. It's really beautiful. So I love that you saw that, Justin. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we have time for one or two more people sharing. It doesn't have to be questions. I'd love to just hear from you, like what are you hearing?
Hi, Natasha. It's Marie again.
Hi, Marie.
Hi. I just got so lost in the most beautiful, divine space. I couldn't tell you a word that you've said. And that's so precious to me, to let go of that trying too hard, trying to learn. But I know how I feel right now.
Perfect.
So, I have captured some of it, of course, but it's that listening beyond the spoken word.
Yes.
And the creation, the awe in a baby's eyes, or nature, and that it isn't just those moments that I can access that. It's here right now.
Always.
It's always, that's the thing, it's just in a different direction. So thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing that, Marie. It's so simple, and I love that you said that there's no words, it's just a feeling.
Yeah.
That's exactly what Sydney Banks said, look for the feeling.
Yeah. And it again, a person who's trained in so many disciplines, that's what's been so hard in this journey, is me unlearning everything that traditionally as a therapist, blah blah blah, that we are taught to unpick the story, and as you say, people could be in therapy for years and years and years, and it just doesn't have to be that way, because it just adds food, in my experience anyway, on both sides. It just fuels the fire, and you get so used to telling that story. And in fact, even before I got muggledy up with your bio, I had it practiced perfect. And then I'm in my head, what's my dyslexia's going to play, blah, blah. And it's just a story that I rerun, instead of just being present and just introduce Natasha in a way that she deserves it, rather than me thinking, how am I going to look? So that's been quite interesting, observing that part in me as well. So thank you for taking me to a beautiful place.
Oh, you were already there.
I know. But thank you.
You're welcome. I just want to say one thing, and then I'll go to you, Giles, which is, I just want to say that it's so simple.
Yes.
There's life, and then there's the stories that we have about life.
Yeah.
So if we let go of the stories, there's just life. Light in our eyes, open. What's going on? The curiosity of a baby. There's life, and then there's the stories that we have about life. Giles, please.
Hi, wonderful session. Thank you. can you hear me? Have I got my
Yeah.
yeah?
Yes.
You've got the Croft family in here. Justine's my sister. The bit that really resonated with me was when you were talking about nature and what happens in nature. And I spend a lot of time. I love walking. I live in the Brecon Beacons in Wales, and I spend a lot of time hiking. And I really got to wondering, what is it about nature? You know, why do we feel so good? Why do we have good ideas? Why do our moods improve? Why do, you know, and it can't just be the endorphins. And when you said it blows me away, it blows me away. And what I'm seeing more and more is that that's really at the heart of it all. It might sound a bit weird, but like, nature doesn't care about me. It's like little Giles just doesn't. It's just not a thing when I'm out in nature, and it's really obvious when it is. It's really obvious when Giles is there, when I'm out in nature, when I'm out walking, and it comes with a feeling, and that feeling is just like a little tap on the shoulder to say, you've created ego again, and here you are worrying about all your problems that you're just making up. And I find it very, very easy to just fall out of that, and you know, back into the now, isn't it, really? So thanks, that really resonated for me.
Oh, wonderful. And I love that. It's another way of saying what you just said is, it's not personal. Life is not personal. Like, you're out walking and it starts to rain. I mean, what are you going to do? Why is it raining? What is it happening to me? It's like, here I am. I just wanted to go for a nice walk. And we start whining. It's nature. It's not, life is not personal. We make it personal. It's the little I that goes, oh, this shouldn't be happening. Why is it happening? I need something better. I don't want to be here right now. I don't want to suffer. Right? So I agree completely. Nature is one of the places, and most people feel the same way. They don't necessarily know why, but it reminds them of our true nature, where we're just in the present moment, full of awe. Of nature and the life force. Thanks, Jarl.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for coming and listening. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference. I can't wait to see the video tonight with Sydney Banks. Never seen before. So I'll be there. And I hope to see you maybe in some of the social rooms. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care. Lots of love.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Natasha.